Hey Ray, how's it going? Do you know if others are joining? It looked
Hello?
like Dan said maybe he might be able to call in, but he's in transit.
Okay. Um, yeah, I think he said he was going to be out of pocket through today or something, or until today. Um, I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard anything from the others yet. Uh, so I was presuming they would be here, but we can. Um, but one thing totally is, well, we can talk about it more when we meet. But one thing we went well, I want input from the rest of the group are the roles, especially for like 2018 budgets, because I think those questions are going to start be putting out there. And we have good numbers on current spending, but that doesn't include some paid development work. So cool. Here I can ping.
You hearing back from anyone?
No, and they're not online, so this might end up being a very conceptual call of video art or something. Um, maybe we should turn off the recording and wait 4 minutes or something, or just let it run. I don't know. I mean, it's only half, like, the call is short too.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could also just do some updates and then have the call record. Anyone can, who wants to listen to it can listen to it.
Sure. Okay. Even if it's yeah. Okay. That's fine too. So why don't I quickly share my screen and run through stuff?
Yeah, I mean, if it's not useful to get like live feedback, we also don't need to like update the void. I mean,
yeah, like the stuff I had, actually, maybe we don't need to share the screen then. Was mostly based for the dev team. Like, we talked about scheduling deployments, which is something that I think I'm going to try to bring up with the team. We can do that offline. And then also I wanted to start talking about, this has to do with the budgeting stuff, to start talking about like defining roles, like a paid developer. I reached out to a friend who does DevOps, and he's not sure if he doesn't know if he could do it, but he has friends. But I was like, okay, before you start blasting your friends, like, we should have a more descriptive idea of what we're looking for. Because I know we're looking for not necessarily someone like totally junior, but like, if there's a specific, if it's just like basic consulting, or do we really we want to use like Docker and Kubernetes or whatever? Like, I'm not quite sure about that. So if we had a little more clarity on that. For 2018, a paid development, some new feature development, and then also we should is that better? Okay.
a bit, yeah, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so video, paid person. Yeah, so we just want to sort of start thinking about what that person would be in a job description, and then also like budgeting for that for the budgeting round that we're going to talk about for 2018. And the third thing is, Dan Dawson is about to start work next week, and so I'll circle around just to get him started on what he could work immediately on, based on his skill set. And then the other things that I had were more for just to check in on where we were for 0.0.1. There are still a few tickets. Some of them I think have been fixed, and then also I just want to do another round of checking with the differ, but I was having some problems with the Python notebook or the Jupyter notebook that Dan had created, so I just need to touch base with him. I'm trying to schedule time with him Thursday or Friday, just to make sure it's working correctly. And hopefully we can just sign off on the differ. And if there's some known problems, just get those sort of looked at to see if it's in good shape. But since I've been using it, it's been working pretty well, not just looking better, the rendering, but then also it's been catching everything I was hoping it would be catching. So that's a really good sign. And then I think we can sort of try to get some of the, like Jake would be a great person just to sort of say, like, in his next round of analyst work, try to use use this instead of Versionista, with maybe like the caveat, like, okay, spend half an hour to an hour. But if it's like, if you're getting frustrated, let us know, bail early, and just get your work done however you need to do it. But see how far they can get using the current, version that we have. Just to sort of trying to, everything I want to do now is like concrete steps towards, reaching our 0.01 milestone. Oops. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Is there going to be a way for, Jake or anyone else who's interested in doing this, like trying out the new tools, to actually write down some kind of feedback, or that's going to be?
So what I'm hoping to do is have them in the I think if they're working in the web team in a certain channel, and they can just I'll try to guide it so that they can at me so I know it's there, but then we just do it within a thread, maybe each just to keep it sort of contained. And I was looking through maybe I think either the team or the web monitoring channel probably could handle that. I think it'll be like bursts of activity. And so as long as they're adding me, then I'll be sure to be seeing everything. And I'll probably be doing a lot of work of consolidating that feedback into a, and probably putting it into a Google Doc or something. But, that'll just require, and it still requires me to be that filter.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. And if it becomes very voluminous, I know there was concern about like sort of, Slack channel creep. If we find that it really deserves its own channel, we can create one. I go back and forth on the right optimal way to do it. So I'm happy to experiment a little bit.
I think it would be fine as long as the channel was created with a specific purpose, and then people there were like, giving feedback on the app. I think that would be a pretty good well-scoped channel. Yeah,
because there is that like web monitoring UI channel, but it's only on archivers. So, I did create like a web monitoring UI channel in the Edgy archive where all the analysts are, or a lot of the analysts are. So, we could also use that and see. Some of it might just be, if the analysts don't mind it, then I'm okay with it. Some of it I'm just, where's it easiest for the analyst to put it and put their comments to. I sort of want to reduce friction there.
Yeah, but I don't think, we can ask them, but my sense is it's another channel I wouldn't ask them to move to another Slack, but another channel I think is totally fine.
Right, and then we could actually bridge those two as well. But I think Patcom and Dawn seem to be, I think they're traveling this week, so I've asked about the bridge and haven't heard back. I can try again.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Okay, and that's really basically all I had. Obviously I'll circle back with the group on the waffle board just to make sure that get an update on what people are working on, and then we can I can assess where we are and just try to make sure we're prioritizing the 0.0.1 work if people are looking to pick up new things as they finish older stuff. Okay. Yeah, that's all I had. Do you have anything to add on the analyst side?
Just that, well, they're kind of meeting, like this past meeting and the next meeting are optional.
Right.
People are traveling. Monitoring is still ongoing, but we're not doing the debriefs. Other than that, I'm working with Jake to transfer over kind of some responsibilities in terms of like him taking on the role as the analyst coordinator.
Uh-huh.
And then early in January, we'll convene a meeting with like the research team, which is going to be folks who are going to be doing a little bit more advanced research on kind of trends and patterns of changes, aggregating kind of over longer periods of time across agencies. So that'll be pretty exciting. And then
yeah, that work is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the, beyond the like one-off that's changed. I think we have a lot to contribute by saying it's not just this one change, but it's a systematic removal of those kinds of things and trying to really provide evidence for what we're seeing. So I think that'll be really interesting. I'm excited, and a few analysts are interested in kind of taking up the lead there, so that's great too. And then I'll also be training folks to be reviewers and report reviewers. And I think, I think it's going to be important to figure out a way to have a better accountability system. So what happens if you are a reviewer and you don't catch an important piece of information or make an error? Right now there's no kind of feedback and kind of our main, it can be pretty contentious, but like at some point, if someone is not doing a good job reviewing, they shouldn't be allowed to review anymore. We haven't had that actually yet, but we've had kind of varying degrees of reviews of varying degrees of rigor, and so we have to decide what standard we want to hold everyone and agree to that collectively. So I think that'll be an important conversation to have.
Yeah.
But then, other than that, just a quick update. Last week, I wrote a report based on a find that Justin Shell saw on the National Park Service website. What he found was 92 documents were removed from the Climate Friendly Parks website. These were climate action reports that corresponded to particular national parks. So like PDFs that were up to like 40 and 50 pages in some cases. And they were removed, links to those documents were removed, but also the documents themselves were removed, and there was no .gov, NPS archive or anything like that. And after we released our report and blog post, it received relatively good coverage in kind of, didn't get to Washington Post, New York Times, but the next tier, sort of like Vice, Mashable, got into, I believe, New Republic, and a few other places as well. Basically, after the release, National Park Service issued a statement saying that these documents were removed in order to update the resources so that the resources comply with accessibility statutes that all agencies are supposed to comply with by January 18th or something like that. And so, from corresponding with journalists, it doesn't seem like there's political interference, but it does seem like these are problematic data governance questions because these agencies have had, almost a year with the latest kind of accessibility statutes that were issued. And the fact that they're removing them now, likely so that agencies avoid being non-compliant by, past the deadline, means that resources are being removed from the public for not a very good reason. And yeah, it's a new one for us. I still think an important one to highlight, and got reasonably good pickup on social media as well.
Yeah, I was following some of that too, and I really think it actually this kind of work goes back to some of what we were just talking about in terms of like the research, whereas it's not necessarily just us pointing out these like mistakes or errors or whatever, but like sort of creating almost instruction is too hard a word, but like showing clearly like best practices. I mean, obviously they waited too long, but had they put that statement up to start out with, just to explain what was happening, it would have solved a lot of, it would have reduced a lot of confusion.
Certainly, yeah.
And
but still, from my perspective, and I have to read more of the kind of the statutes about this, but I do think this is bad web governance. I mean,
yeah, sure.
Something I don't quite understand what the rationale. I mean, I understand the rationale. Like, you have resources that are online that are not compliant. There might be some way that you get in trouble for that. If they're not at all online, then you're not compliant, but you're reducing access to resources.
Right.
So,
sure.
That's almost should be worse. Like, punishment or whatever. I don't even know if you do get punished for having non-compliant material, but. But yeah, I agree that it's really helpful to have like a set of examples that you can pull from when you're talking about best practices. Otherwise, it becomes quite abstract.
Right, exactly. That's what I was more getting at. Like, now we have this like body of work where we can say sort of like, based on these experiences, this is what we could, these are our recommendation for best practices to maintain transparency so that, people understand what you're doing. And we can still, like you say, argue about those actions, but at least, in an act of transparency, we can discuss what's going on and understand it from both sides. So all good stuff.
Yeah. So that was last report of the year. I'm also working on, I've been working on the 100 days report, or 101 year report rather. And then it looks like Stephen Braun might get some nice visualization going or even like a fancy table for how the reports are presented. So that'll be nice to release. And finishing up a few reports, another report that is going to go into the 1 year report, the removals of web pages on the climate, on a Bureau of Land Management site about climate change.
All sounds great.
Cool.
Lots of activity, which is cool. Great. So I think this was good. Did you have anything else to add, Toli?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'm good too. So, all right. Let's call it a day, and then we can take it from there.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right.
Talk to you soon.